The Book of Boba Fett has now arrived on Disney Plus, and I think it's off to a great start. Even though I have a few minor gripes, I am loving the Book of Boba Fett because Boba Fett's always been a character that I thought was just really, really cool. So to see him return in The Mandalorian Season 2 was amazing, and now to see him get his time to shine in the spotlight is really amazing. Getting to see his story be told, both past and present, is a lot of fun that I'm excited to see explored in this series. So anyways, guys, I'm going to be breaking down this episode with all my spoiler thoughts and my spoiler review for the Book of Boba Fett Episode 1. You can let me know your own thoughts on it in the comments below. And of course, obviously, spoiler warning if you haven't seen the episode yet. Highly recommend checking it out. But without further ado, let's jump into this. So the episode starts with Boba Fett on Tatooine inside a Bacta tank. He's trying to get healed up here, and as he's inside this Bacta tank, he is dreaming, and he's having these flashbacks to big moments within his life. For example, first of all, we actually get a flashback to the prequels, where we have, of course, Boba Fett right after Jango Fett's death, picking up his helmet, of course, foreshadowing his future as Boba Fett. So that was really cool that we got that little reference and flashback there in this episode. But what's even more interesting is after this, it shows us exactly what happens and how he survives the Sacrilege pit. Which is something we've all been wondering, like, how could he survive the Sacrilege pit? And now this shows us exactly how. And this is something I was really excited about because it's something I didn't expect. Like, I wanted to see that, and I wanted to see them explain what happened there and how he survived. And I was hoping they'd at least touch on it, but to see that it has such a prominent role in the show, literally over half this episode, is flashbacks to how he survived and basically his time before The Mandalorian Season 2, in between Return of the Jedi and The Mandalorian Season 2. So I loved seeing that portrayed in this episode because, again, that wasn't something I was expecting, but it's something that I love is being showcased in this series. Plus, that was just such a cool visual, seeing Boba Fett in the Sacrilege pit. You see like a dead stormtrooper over there, just like all this crazy slime all over the place. And then, of course, he busts out his flamethrower, he incinerates the thing, and then you just see his hand punch up through the sand. And it's just some really cool visuals that I enjoyed seeing here. And you get to see his escape, but this is where you kind of see, like, throughout this whole episode in these flashbacks, just Boba Fett went through some stuff. Like, this is pure torture for this character because, like, sure, he survived, but now he's got to go through all of this pain and struggle to get where he is present day. Because, first of all, his armor is stolen by Jawas while he's sleeping, and then later on he actually gets kidnapped by some Tusken Raiders. And so we get some back and forth here with the Tusken Raiders, basically making him their slave. And then he keeps trying to escape, but of course he gets caught and beat up and everything. And this is, of course, leading to basically where we meet up with Boba Fett for the first time in The Mandalorian Season 2. But this is where the episode then transitions back to present day, where Fennec Shand wakes up Boba Fett from the Bacta tank and says, like, we gotta get down to business, like, we gotta get to work. So they have a meeting with just some people from Tatooine that are basically, like, pledging their allegiance and making tributes and all this stuff, and paying respects to Lord Fett, basically the one that took over for Jabba the Hutt, because now he rules over Jabba's palace, and he is basically replacing both Jabba the Hutt and Bib Fortuna, as we saw in the post-credit scene for The Mandalorian Season 2, which set up this spin-off series. So for the most part, everybody's pretty much going along with this, like, oh, alright, he's the new Boba Fett, so we're just going to fear and respect him and all this stuff. But there is this one guy who actually asks Boba Fett for a tribute from him and wants to be the one to get paid here. And he works for the mayor, and the mayor for some reason couldn't come. So I definitely feel like they're setting up something here where maybe it's going to be a big reveal of who the mayor is of Tatooine. I have no idea who it could be. I did see some theories it could be Emilia Clarke's character from Solo, a Star Wars story. That could be interesting. I'd be cool with seeing that. But for now, there's not really much set up here. Honestly, there's not really much set up in this episode when it comes to the actual main narrative and storyline of this series. But there's some other cool stuff going on here. Like, for example, he gains 2 Gamorrean slaves, which I thought was really cool, who both worked for previously both Jabba the Hutt and Bib Fortuna. So those were two that's a species that I always enjoyed seeing in the original Star Wars trilogy working for Jabba the Hutt. I just thought they were always so cool and like ridiculous at the same time. So seeing that they're working for Boba Fett and basically becoming members of our main squad of the series, I think is going to be a lot of fun to see. And so after this, they go out on the town and they visit the Cantina bar, and you got the Cantina band playing, so that was cool seeing them make their return. And, you know, they're kind of welcomed, but also not. You know, you got some mixed reactions because Boba Fett is coming at this from a different perspective. He's not going to be as brutal as Jabba the Hutt was. So he's welcomed by some, and then others just don't fear him at all, which is understandable. He is kind of like the newbie in town. But we'll see where that goes, because then as soon as he walks out of the cantina, he is attacked and the squad is ambushed. We don't know who sent these people. Maybe the mayor. Again, don't know who the mayor is. But they are ambushed, and we get some really cool fight scenes here, specifically with Boba Fett grabbing one of those sticks, and just you can see the rage on his face, just smacking him. It was so cool. Meanwhile, you got Fennec Shand, who is like doing some parkour, jumping across the roofs, chasing down some bad guys. That was a lot of fun to see. But it's after this when Boba Fett is then dragged back to the Bacta tank by the Gamorrean guards, and basically like he can like barely walk. So I don't know, it's interesting because it didn't look like he took too much damage or like he was severely injured or anything. So maybe due to his injuries in the Sacrolac pit, and like you could see in those flashbacks he was like burned up and everything, and just the torture and brutality he went through, if maybe he's like hypersensitive to stuff now, that could be an interesting explanation to kind of explore in the series that I'm totally here for. But when he does get in the Bacta tank again, this is where we get back to our flashbacks, and that's actually where we spend the rest of the episode here for the Book of Boba Fett Episode 1. So he's still in Tusken custody, and they actually make him dig for water alongside this other slave, this Rhodian slave who is also captured by alongside Boba Fett, and he ends up managing to dig up this giant, huge monster creature, which Boba Fett ends up fighting and killing and, like, you know, severs its head. So then they take that back to the other Tusken Raider people, and Boba Fett is kind of seen as now, like, a hero, so they kind of acknowledge him and, like, don't treat him so badly anymore, kind of give him the respect he deserves, and actually finally give him his water. So, you know, that's good. I thought that was cool to see. And then that's where the episode ends. It did have a really abrupt ending. So I'll be interested to see if we get more flashbacks like this in episode 2 and the rest of the series, because, again, like I mentioned, season 2 of The Mandalorian, when we first meet up with Boba Fett, you see that he's wearing the outfits of the Tusken Raiders, so I assume that's what they're building up to here, and most likely we will be seeing that explored in further episodes of the season. It's an 8-episode series, so we've got 7 episodes left, and again, there wasn't really much set up here when it comes to the actual narrative and storyline of the series, so that is something that I am kind of disappointed in, and also at the same time, like, there wasn't really, like, any huge reveals or anything. I was kind of expecting, like, some sort of big reveal, because they didn't release this episode to the press at all, and which kind of made me think that, oh, there's got to be something that they're hiding, like some big reveal, some big surprise, just like they did with The Mandalorian, and of course that ended with the big reveal of Baby Yoda, so I figured at least something along the lines of that. We didn't get anything, which, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I just wish they maybe set up more in this episode. But for the most part, I still enjoyed this. I really like where things are going. Just seeing Boba Fett take the spotlight is something really cool that I'm excited to see explored in further episodes of this series. But guys, you can let me know your own thoughts on this in the comments below. What do you think about the Book of Boba Fett Episode 1? Let me know all your thoughts, theories, and predictions for the series in the comments below. Stay tuned for next week, where I'll be breaking down episode 2 and, you know, every other week with every other episode, so stay tuned for that. But for now, guys, thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and hit that subscribe button so I can keep it up to date on everything that goes on in the Star Wars life.